Hi, everybody. Welcome to Grab a Cup of Knit and Chat, episode 30, the blanket edition. Today is April 20th, 2025, and it's about noon on Easter Sunday. So if you celebrate, happy Easter. I keep wanting to say February today because I've been doing some cross stitching on my temperature cross stitch pattern, and I'm working to catch up February, so I'm a little thrown off, but welcome. Today's episode is going to be all about talking about my blanket whips, so grab a drink. I have my Sprite Zero, and we'll get started on those. There's 10 active, and I'd say active, blanket whips that I have. In episode 28, I believe, I was talking about how I was watching Needles at the Ready, and Kevin said that he had seen on another podcast about taking your whips, giving them a number, rolling a dice, and that's what you work on. I gave all of my whips numbers and I stopped at 26. And that is an exorbitant amount of whips, even for me. And I want to try to work them down to, at the most, maybe 12 active whips. And having 10 blanket whips, crochet and knit, takes up the majority of that space, but they're all really long-term whips. Most of them. Excuse me. Because they're using scrap yarns. But I want to talk about those today. I do have some that I'm not showing. My Beekeepers quilt, which is the knitted hexagons that you stuff as you make them, and then you throw them in a bag or whatever until you get enough of them. I have not worked on that one in, I want to say, at least 8 months. I think I might have done 1 or 2 hexies 8 months ago and threw them in there. And I really do need to do those as well. And you'll see, I think I can place it in with my, because I'm using scrap fingering weight yarn for that one, and I can place it in. So I may bring it back into rotation with the scrap yarn. And we'll see exactly where I can fit it in. I think I can fit it in it'd probably be best to do it either first or second line, but we'll get into that. Other blanket whips that I have are English paper piecing. And I haven't done a whole lot on those lately either. So I'd like to get at least 1 or 2 of these blanket whips done and then bring those back into the rotation because I like doing my hand sewing as well. To me, sometimes it's just not as easy to carry with me, but you can hand sew on sections and then have the bigger section at home that you add to. So we'll see how that goes. I'm trying to keep my little book open. I have my notes here in a little journal that I've kind of decorated up with some stuff. We'll see if we can keep it open. Yes, that was the spine breaking. Sorry for those of you that can't stand that, but we'll see. Anyway, it is a partly cloudy day here in Central Oregon. We're supposed to have some rain sometime today, and so lighting may be weird. Welcome to those of you who are coming back. Welcome to those of you who are new. Just so you know, I'm in Central Oregon. My name is Maggie. I'm Grab a Cup of Knit. It's knit and crafting because I craft everything. This episode is going to be on a particular item, which is my blankets. And usually I just show things that I'm working on, things I've made, and sometimes talk about books. And other times I rant about what, I don't know, nobody else wants to hear about. So, getting into it, we are going to start with my miter square blanket. Now, these blankets have many different names. They have paid for patterns, they have free patterns. It's all a miter square. It just kind of depends on how you work it. That's how I look at it. I'm going to back up, and where is my first one? It is, I will be turning around because all of these are on the floor behind my chair because I don't have any space next to me to put them right next to me. But this is my Coziest Memory blanket by Kemper Ray. It's on Ravelry. It is free. When you click on it, it takes you to a blog post. And this one is using fingering weight, using all of my scraps. And what I mean is this is leftover from a pair of socks. I have enough probably to do a shorty pair, but we're just going to throw it in here. I also have packets of Knit Picks mini skeins, little like Madeline and Tosh mini skeins, knitted whip mini skeins, yarn that I've dyed. I've got it all thrown right here in this basket, and this is all scrap yarns under here and mini skeins. I do use a lot of different mini skeins that I've used in other items, other whips. Yeah, so it goes first, whenever I have scraps, it goes into my fingering weight Coziest Memory blanket. I'm going to try to stand up and let you see it. So this is how tall it is, and this is how wide it is. This purple with the white marker is my very first block, and then I've only worked up this tall. And I have some bigger blocks in here. They started out was going to be just scattered in whenever I wanted it to. And then it turned out to be a pattern. I kind of liked how they were going in at a pattern. So I'm just going to keep it that way. So I'm just counting the first 2 rows. There's 5 blocks from the beginning. And then I put in a big block. The small blocks are 20 stitches, a marker, and then 20 stitches, which works the miter. The larger blocks are 40 stitches, marker, and then 40 stitches to work. And I use the bigger skeins that are left over for the bigger blocks. So if I have like this right here, this is going to be a big block. And I don't care in which order that I put them in. I do try not to, like I did this one. I did wind up putting another variegated one right there, which is just a little bit different than that one. And I didn't notice it until I got on down the line. So I'm trying now not to do that. Because they're just too similar in color than what they need to be. But that's how wide it's going to be. I have it the width. And then the length will wind up being about the length of a twin bed. The width is the width of a twin bed mattress. and the length will be as long as a twin bed. A little lofty in expectations, but I make socks. I use a lot of fingering weight yarn. I get mini skeins every time I go to a new shop, and that's what started out the Beekeepers quilt, because it uses scrap fingering weight yarns as well. And I was getting mini skeins when I would go to a fiber show. I would go to new shops. I would grab mini skeins and then use sock yarn, leftovers and stuff like that. So now I'm going to see if maybe I can get some more hexies for the Beekeepers quilt. And that's what I do. It just kind of depends on the skeins. I want to say each one of these small squares is about 5 to 6 grams, but I'm not quite sure. I can't remember. I use a I should have wrote this down. A US 2 Chiago DPN, which is a 2.75 millimeter. I use those. What I do with my DPNs is when I'm working with them, I have a stopper on each end to make them into straight needles, because I was having issues with them falling off when I would do this or them sliding out. So I just put a stopper on them. I turn my DPNs into straight needles. You'll see that on all my DPNs that I'm using for these. So I also have a DK version that I just started working. And it's really far along. It is so amazing. Haha. This is it. So this is actual all DK weight yarns. I was going to do the fingering yarn held double. I did not like the way that looked. So I'm just doing an actual DK weight. I have a bunch of Stylecraft double knit yarn. These are leftovers from something else. And again, I'm using my DPNs with the stoppers on them. These are a US 5 3.75 needle. You can't see that. I can't do the magic hand thing to make it show up, so I'm not even going to try. But these are Zing Knit Pro. Knit Pro Zings. I love Knit Pro Zings and I love Chiago. Chiago, whichever one. I love Zings and those. Those are my favorite needles. But that's as far as that one's gone. I'm also using the Coziest Memory by Kemper Ray for that one as well. And I'm just using DK scraps. I haven't been working with a lot of DK yarns in the past, and I'm just starting to. So having the DK scraps is new to me. That's why it's not very far along. I'm using the same pattern, just a different needle size. And I also look at Kay Litton, the crazy sock lady. She's done them before, these miter square blankets, and I use her end of row and beginning of row instructions that gives you a cleaner edge, and it's easier to pick up stitches with when you go to add the next miter square. That's 2. And this is where I'm thinking maybe I should throw the Beekeepers quilt in again to use scraps, because it doesn't use that much. My next, when I'm done adding my fingering weight scraps to my Coziest Memory blanket, then I make, oh, it fell over. Excuse me while I pick up my baskets. Then I make my, they go in this basket right here, which is throwing things at me. And I realized has a hole in it. I make my 8 round granny squares. Now in this basket right here, I have a whole stack. I don't care the colors. I just work them as the colors come out. This was left over from Seahawk's hat. This was left over from something and is all sparkly. This has a whole lot of vibrant colors. Some are solid, some tonals, some variegated, some self-striping. I don't care what they are. I'm working them. I have them in here so that when I have enough, I think there's 27 or 28 in here. They're just 8 round granny squares. And when I have as many as I think I need to either make a throw or a blanket big enough for a twin bed, then I will do a continuous join in a neutral color. Because it's so colorful, some of them, I'm thinking a cream or a white, just because, and I could do like a navy or a black. Could look good as well. I don't think it really matters. And maybe even just a beige color. Just kind of give it that toned down look. But I'm doing those on my Susan Bates US size G or a 6, which is a 4mm. You probably can't see that either because it's not going to show up well. But that's what I'm crocheting that on. And I found this block on YouTube with TL Yarn Crafts. She does a granny square blanket where she had a bunch of minis or whatever. So that's what I'm doing here, is they're just being worked up with that. So it goes from the miter square blanket straight to the granny squares. And I think it has to be 10 grams for the granny square. I need to, because I have a tag here where I have fingering weight granny squares on it. I think I need to weigh a granny square to see how much it takes. And I need to weigh my scrap yarn before I do a miter square and weigh it after, so I know how much yarn I need for that. Because I think having, let me make a note of that. Weigh scraps before miter square. To see how many grams needed. And same for granny square. Also, Beekeepers quilt. That way I know, and I don't know why I hadn't thought about it until just then, so thank you for bearing with me. That way I know when I have scraps left over, when I weigh it, I know where it needs to go first. Because it may not be enough to do the miter square, and it always goes in the miter square first. I'm usually pretty good about eyeballing those, but I don't know how many grams it is. And then I can weigh it and see, can I use it for Beekeepers and then skip the granny square? Or, can I do both, or how I need to work that? Because after it goes through the granny square blanket, I'm trying to set these where I'm not constantly turning around, but I'm constantly turning around, and I'm sorry. After it goes through the granny square blanket, it goes straight to my little Battenberg. It's the mini Battenberg. If you know how somebody has a pattern for a Battenberg blanket, but I think it's a 3 round. I believe it's a 3 round, and I should have looked, but all I'm doing is a solid granny square with just 2 rounds to it. Sorry. Just 2 rounds to it. And I'm just using scraps. That's how many I have. I'm not going to be able to get anywhere with it until this basket is full. And as you can see, there's not that many in the basket. Maybe 20, 25. I don't know. But this has gone through the miter square blanket and the granny square blanket. And now it's doing a mini Battenberg square, which, like I say, is just 2 rounds of a solid granny square. And I'm using this one came in a Toft kit, but it's just a size 4, and it has a smaller one on the other end, but I'm using this one, or maybe using that one. I really need to mark which one I'm using. I usually pick it up and then have to look at it again and see which one it is, but anyway, then it goes to the mini Battenberg blanket. Don't know what I'm going to do with this one. I think once I get all of these little things, or I get enough of them to do something with, excuse me. I think once I get enough of them to do something with, I'll do a round in a neutral color, and 1 round in a neutral color to connect them all together. Maybe 2 rounds in a neutral color. I'm not sure. I kind of like the fact that it's kind of mini blankets. And if my granddaughters played with dolls as much as I think they should play with dolls, then I could make little blankets out of them for dolls, for like doll houses or toy dolls, but that's not happening. So I may wind up using those to make some kind of a pillow cover, cushion cover, something like that. We'll see. After they go through the Battenberg blanket, then they go to the Quadrofenia blanket by K.F. Jones, which is, and I can't even tell you where to look up the mini Battenberg blanket. You can just look on Ravelry for Battenberg blanket in crochet, and it will bring up this wonderful pattern, and I can't remember who had it. I came up with the mini because I saw someone somewhere doing just a 2-round one and putting it together. That's how I came up with that. So it goes miter square, granny square, possibly Beekeepers, mini Battenberg, and then it goes to the Quadrofania, which is also by K.F. Jones, like I said, and it was written for Advent yarns or mini skeins. I'm just using the stitch count from that pattern and using scraps. I don't have it on very long needles, so you can't really see how big it really is, But that's where I started with a mini skein that I had, or some scraps that I had after it went through the granny square process. This is what was left. And I went through those, and I'm just picking them up, and I'm just working as long as it goes across on the front side, on the right side, and then back to on the wrong side, and I have enough yarn, like I have this much left. That's not enough. That's just going to weave in an end. Then I will change it. And I tied this one in, and I don't know now. I think I was going to do it magic knot style from here on out, but I really like just having these minimal lines. I like having that broken up because I do have a lot of scrap blankets, and I'm going to cut this while I'm thinking about it so I don't do that. I have a lot of scrap blankets, enough that just kind of go into one another, that I really don't want to do that anymore. So this one has, these are scraps for the Beekeepers quilt, so I probably should go through there. These are usually all already in the miter square blanket. They go there first. I don't think all of them have been done into a granny square, so I may need to do some of that. But if I remember right, it has to be either 10 or 12 grams for the granny square. And I think it's 10 grams. So it may be a thing. And I know that the Beekeepers quilt is found on Ravelry. It's a knitting pattern, and it tells you approximately how much you need for each one. But I just have scraps here. And we'll see where we get with that. This is done in quadrants. I do have a picture of the pattern here. It's in black and white, but you can kind of see she uses the mini skeins and only does like so many rows with each mini skein, and it's like a triangle piece that is then you're working from the point out to do it widthwise, and I'm doing the stitch count like I said for that, just not following the mini skein part, and making 4 of those, and then whenever you add them together, all of the triangle points meet in the middle. So it's like that in the middle, and then it comes out to a more rectangular type. It looked like maybe more square on the edge. After it goes from that, there's not usually a whole lot left in a piece of what's needed. And they usually wind up like this. This is maybe 1-2 grams. And I'm doing a, this is what's left of this one right here. This is the Jelly Roll blanket, also by Kay Jones, and I'm using the, this is my second column. I'm using recommended needles for the Quadrofenia, by the way. And the recommended needles for this is, it helps if I have my glasses on so that I can actually see. It's not on that one. A US 2.75. These are signature needles that I got before they closed Um, this is the width so far, and then it's pretty long. And some of these scraps are a little bit longer than others, which is the whole idea is you're just using up your scraps. And this was before the first column was before I started doing the Quadrofenia and the granny square blanket. So I was doing the miter squares, and then I would have a little bit more scraps, a little bit more on the scrap to use. And Kay Litton, the crazy sock lady, also has a really good way that she does the join back here. Supposedly the join side is supposed to be the right side, and this is supposed to be the wrong side, because Kay Jones mocked it up after a quilt that she saw, a Jelly Roll quilt, and I don't mind either side. I'm using the join from the crazy sock lady and not the one in the pattern. Oh, I feel like I'm just going on and on. It's 10 blankets in all that I have as whips. And as you can see, the first, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all kind of tie in together. One of those is a DK blanket, but the other 5, the scraps go from one to the other, to the other, to the other. Because even though I was making the scrappy blanket, I still had plenty of scraps left over to work with other things. And that's where the others came in. And so they're all long-term projects. And then, like, I needed something else. Around Christmas time, I was watching all the Vlogmases, and I thought, Advent blankets, that's where I found the Quadrofenia. And I had all this Jameson and Smith yarn that I had gotten. And I don't know if it's enough, but it's quite a bit. This is what I have right here. And it's like DK jumper weight, spindrift type stuff. So this is a square in progress. These are finished squares. I think I have 8 or 9 of them. But it's called the Vivid Blanket, or the Vivid by Tin Can Knits. And on this, I'm trying to find one that you could see pretty easily. I just decided to use that yarn up, making only this blanket. And this is what it looks like. I don't know if you can really see that very good. I'm not perfect with it because it starts in the middle there with a pinhole start, and then you work your way out with that lace pattern, and then it winds up with the square. You turn it into a square. So you're working in the round and doing your increases to turn it into a square at the same time. Some of them are a little better than the others. Some are not. These have already been blocked. There's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10. So I'm working on block 11. So I'm just going to work on that until I think it has so many blocks in the pattern. Excuse me. I'm using the app, and I think it says to work up so many blocks, and then you're putting them together. And I'm just going to do as many as that yarn will allow. And then because it's a rustic feel yarn, it's 100% wool, I'll just grab something that I like to go with it to bring it all together. So next is the last knitting one. I have a couple of crochet ones. And this is the Berroco year-long make long. This is one of the blocks from January. Oh, it would help if I showed you the right side though, huh? That's one of the blocks from January. And this is another one of the blocks from January. I'm knitting these on Big Twist from Joann's. And yes, I'm hoping I had bought enough at the same time that it was done. Those two blocks were blocked already. This one is not blocked. This is one of the February blocks. So this one, you started on the outside and then you decreased in and you wound up in the middle. So this one has not been blocked because February is supposed to have 6 blocks like this in all of the colors that you chose for your blanket. So it would have, you start, like the second one starts with this color, and then you're just kind of rearranging the colors, but you're supposed to have 6 filler blocks. And quite frankly, I don't like this block. So I'm probably not going to make another one of this color or like this. I'm probably going to work the rest of the year because I've only done January and February. I still need to catch up and do March and April. So some months has 1 block, some month has 2 blocks. February had the 6 blocks because you're doing the exact same thing with all the colors. But I think I'm going to wait and see what the other blocks are and see if I like those any better. But that's another long-term knitted blanket project. And then I have 2 crochet blankets. One is a Tunisian crochet, and I don't do that. I've only done like one other project with that so far. Oh, and to find the mystery knit along Baroco blanket, you just go on Ravelry and look up for Baroco mystery knit along for 2025, and it'll take you to the Baroco site because those are free. This one, the Tunisian crochet is done in Red Heart. This is the color coffee. I had gotten this for another blanket, and it was a crochet mosaic blanket, and the way the pattern was working up, it was extremely stiff and extremely thick, and I didn't like the way it felt. So this is the backside. This is the Hudson throw in Tunisian crochet. When you have it stretched out, it looks like beehive or bee honeycombs. It uses a simple stitch and a purl, which is the first time using a purl. The other one that I did was simple stitch. I had this much on it before, and then I realized I had totally messed up, and then I had to take it all out and restart. So now I'm back to where I was. I have not worked on this very long. It is kind of cool to work on because it's nice. It gives your hands something different to do than just knitting. and it also is different than regular crochet. So your movements are different than normal. This is in the book Tunisian Crochet Handbook, and it's called the Hudson Throw, and that is by TL Yarns. And that's as far as I've gotten. I'm sure that I will not finish it. It does have huge tassels, and I'm sure I won't finish it all, but I do have more of this color. So I may get it all done in the same color. I may switch colors. Who knows? But that's that one. And then my last blanket is one that's been in my closet for three years. I don't remember when this came out. It is Nature Walk by Sandra Paul, or the Cherry Heart. And I'm using Kobasi cotton bamboo yarn. I have a bunch of different colors in here. I have a couple of the I've got 3 of the blocks done already. I'm working on the 4th one. And you're just making 8 blocks of, what is it, 6 different blocks. You're making 8 each of 6 different blocks. I'll show you the blocks. This is called Gates. This is called Berries. They're not blocked yet, so I'm trying to hold them out so you can see. This is called Buds. And this one is called Leaves. And then there's 2 more, and that is North Star and Flower. It's supposed to represent the things that you see along the walks, out in nature. When I got it, it was a free make-along pattern. Now it's like $5 and something. But if you crochet, it's well worth it. It's got different tutorials matched with it in the pattern. I'm trying to see where it says what the hook size is. It doesn't really say. It just says that you want to try to meet gauge. It doesn't really give you a hook size. Or maybe it does, and then it just tells you to. It does have a layout, and it has charts. It tells you how to join. But I'm not seeing. Really a hook or a date. I'm looking for a date. I'm sorry. On when it came out, and I can't find it. The hook that I'm using, and I think is pretty much close to what they call for, is a US E. That's all it has on it. This is a furls hook, and it's a US E. So I was trying to see if that was just something that I got to get gauge, or if that was something that was on the pattern. It should say so. That's in this basket. The white that I showed you is going to be the border. There's an issue with finding white yarns apparently, because I went to a yarn shop here in Oregon and asked, because they carry the Coziest yarn, and asked about getting more of the white, because I had tried to order it online also, and everybody's out of it. And they said that for some reason they can't keep white in any of their yarn. Probably because people are using it for the same reason that I am, and using it as a neutral to join blankets and stuff. So we'll see. I don't know what else is going to happen with my blankets. This has been kind of rambly and mismatched, but I just wanted to kind of show you the blankets that I was working on, because there are so many. There's like 10. I don't normally talk about them on the regular episodes unless I'm just really working on it. They're my go-to when I don't know what to work on. Socks and hats are my go-tos when I'm traveling and I need something to work on. Otherwise, I wind up like I did with my Mezzarino top that I've shown in a past video, that I'm reworking the sleeves on because I messed them up. So blankets are a little hard to take along when you're traveling, unless you're doing like the crochet blankets and you're just doing granny squares. That's all the Nature's Walk is different granny squares. So, and then the 8 round granny square, they're all pretty much the same thing. It's just the majority of them are very long term because of scrap yarns, but I don't want to just throw yarns out. I do have a box of yarns that I'm donating soon, that is stuff that I got secondhand from someone else, or in a bag of some yarns that I got at garage sales or thrift stores. And it's yarns that I really, if I don't like the feel of it, I'm not going to use it. So that's pretty much the determination there. It doesn't matter if it's acrylic or if it's hand dyed, if it's wool or superwash. If I'm feeling it and I don't like the feel of it, I'm not going to use it. And a lot of these, the majority of them were either sent to me or by my dad, or was in bags of yarn that I bought from a thrift store. And to get the ones that I wanted, I had to buy the whole bag. So now they're going to be redonated. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed seeing my blankets. I'll show them again maybe in another 30 episodes. If they're not finished, we'll do another blanket catch up. Hopefully, I'd like to get it down to where it's just a few blankets and not 10. Because if I can get all of these blankets, or some of these blankets, done and finished, it'll make my whips go down and my anxiety go down, because, you know, I do knitting to help my anxiety and to help me relax, and I find it relaxing, but I find myself being pushed to finish objects a lot, and I just like the process of knitting. I don't, yeah, every now and then it's good to finish a big project, but at the same time, I kind of want to do it in my time. And the last month, almost month, all I've done is trying to get my whips done and out. So then I can just enjoy knitting again. So we'll see how that goes. I hope you have something on your needles that makes you happy and that brings you joy. And whether it's for you or for someone else, if it's a short term project or a long term project, just relax. It's what you do it for, right? So enjoy the rest of your Easter Sunday and have a nice day.